Hi everyone, I'm Jodi Barrows with The Square and a Square, and in our video tonight we're going to show you a simple strip-pieced and focus fabric. Now before we get into just the simple details of the quilt project that we call Soldier's Comfort, and I'll give you the story behind the Soldier Comfort quilt here in a few minutes, I want to talk about some of the focus fabric that we have. This one behind me is the etchings of the Civil War. These are the actual drawings that they used to put in the newspaper 150 years ago. So these are the actual faces and the different scenes of the real Civil War. Now we have limited quantities and we do have our Civil War toiles on sale. This is the one that we call the sage green, and this one is the one that is the tan with the red. So if you're interested in the Civil War focus fabric, go to the website and you'll find it right there on the home page. Now the quilt that we're going to make, we used the blue Civil War toile, and the blue is all gone, but I want you to look at the quilt that we're going to be making. Now, when I was making my samples for the live session tonight, I actually timed how long it took me to sew a section like this together. So to sew it and press it took me about 4.5 minutes. So this quilt is going to go together very quickly. So we have this block right here, which you can see one of them here. And this is just strip pieced, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do, and you can sew a section in less than 5 minutes. So you're going to have your pieced block here, and then you're going to cut up your focus fabric for the big setting square. And then we've also used it for the border, the long pieces for the border. And you'll need about 3 yards of the focus fabric, whichever one that you choose, to make this quilt that is here that we call Soldier's Comfort. Now let's get into the actual making of this little block right here. That is an old name for this block is called Aunt Suki's. So for the Aunt Suki, you're basically, you can look at it as what I call a simple 9-patch setting, meaning 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and you're just going to sew it together in rows. But instead of cutting all of these rectangles and your centers and your corners, we're going to do it just in strip piecing. So you're going to cut your fabric selvage to selvage. And these are 2.5 on the end, and this is 4.5 in the middle. And you're going to do a color section like this. And these will turn into this part right here on your block. And then you're going to repeat it, same sizes, 2.5, 4.5, 2.5. And you'll have the red on the outside, and see how it was on the inside here. Now these will be cut at the 2.5, and this one will be cut at the 4.5. So let's see how easy it is to get in here and start cutting. Now I'm right-handed, so I always, for the video, have to decide how to do this. So come in here and do your cleanup cut, and I like to put an edge right along the ruler, just like this. Actually, I'm going to go this direction. I was right the first time. Okay. So this is the section that will be right here. So we'll put it at the top and at the bottom. So see how it's the same right here. So you'll cut a 2.5 for the section at the bottom and 1 for the top. Now I like to just go in a little bit, and I like to use the line on a ruler where my seams are and just try to keep my ruler straight on here, not looking at the edges but looking more at the seams to make sure that it's straight on your fabric. Now we need this to be 2.5 inches, so from here to here is my 2.5. I have some selvage edge here. This is my first cut. So instead of doing a cleanup cut and then turning it, I like to start out just like this. So I'll do my cleanup cut. That way I don't have to move my fabric. Then I'll turn it because I cut it wider than the 2.5. So now I can go back in with my 2.5 and trim off that selvage edge. And you can get a little closer than that if you want. By the time you get all the way through to the piece, you can see, well, was it important to save that little bit or not? So now you're just going to, I always say, eat into your strip, just a bite at a time, and keep cutting. Now it's easy for your ruler to start to tilt to the left or the right, and that's another reason why I really like to look at a seam line and align with my ruler, and just get used to doing that. We do that with the square and a square tool, and just keep going into your piece, cutting 2.5-inch sections and making sure that the lines are lining up with the seam, and that helps to keep your unit straight so that you don't have to come back in and square up your piece again. It'll stay straight as you go into it. So you would continue doing that all the way into your piece. Now, your next one is the same thing. Your sizes are the same. You're going to sew it the same. And when you press, if you'll press like away from the red here and then away from the red here, then these seams will line up perfect on the back when you get ready to sew yours together. So once again, let's line it up. And I'm right-handed, but I'm putting my fabric to the left. And we want these to be 4.5-inch section here. So we're going to go in from the selvage a little bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to look at the 5-inch for my first cut because I have that selvage edge. And I'm looking at my lines, keeping it straight. So see, now I just have to turn one piece, and it's a smaller piece than having to mess with all of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So I'm getting it lined up for my 4.5 for my cleanup cut is. I'm looking at some of my lines on the ruler to make sure that I'm staying nice and square. And once that first cut is made, then it's easy to come in and keep going into your block 4.5. And continue on into your block. And then when you get ready to sew these together, you're just going to sew that one across the top and this one across the bottom, and you're going to have your Aunt Suki block, which you can do so many things with. This is great to use it as a setting piece with a pieced block. Use it with the fussy cut like we are doing our focus fabrics. But see how you can put your focus fabrics in between. And it just makes such a simple, easy quilt. Now, when you look back up here, of course, you're going to sew them together in rows and then sew your rows together. And you can put as many wide as you want and as many long. This one is really a nice, large, cuddle up, lap size quilt. Now, with this one that you see down here that I'm working on, this is kind of going to be a 2-part video because you saw how easy it was to make the Aunt Suki block here and how we've used it with our focus fabric here and how quickly this is going to go together. But I have a brand new focus fabric, and this is from our Transcontinental Railroad. So this panel would be a little bit more using it in the Soldier's Comfort Quilt. So I'm going to show you a little bit, give you a sneak preview tonight. This is our Transcontinental Railroad fabric. And I think I will maybe pull a couple of these out here and lay it down on the table. So tomorrow we're going to go into, or I should say our next video section, live video, we're going to go in here and see how to cut this panel up and use our Aunt Suki blocks that we're making here and with the railroad fabric in here so that we get to use all of our panel wisely. So for a little sneak peek, give me just a moment here and I'll show you what we're working on. So be sure and set your notifications for the next live video section so you can see how to cut a panel up when it has very specific things on it that you don't want to lose anywhere. So here you can see how we've used the Aunt Suki block, and we've just kind of cut the panel and exploded it out so that we can use it and make our quilt larger. So stay tuned for our next live video coming to you very, very soon. I hope you've enjoyed the simple strip piece and learned something with some simple strip piecing and how to use focus fabric to really make a large quilt and to do it very, very quickly. I hope you're enjoying our live sessions. Make sure you watch on YouTube and email us with questions that you might have, and we'll be happy to do a live video for you. See you later. Jodi Barrows with The Square and a Square, where piecing and the quilts you dreamed of are just one quick step away.